Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Get Reelisms podcast, episode 113. Ladies and gentlemen, that's right, 113. I am your co-host, Adam Chase Rennie.
And I am also the other co-host, Christine Chen.
And let's be honest, the main co-host, you know what I mean? The main host, the main attraction, if you will. Because the reason of this is that because somebody had a very, very special birthday just a couple of days ago. That's right. His name is John Cusack, and he was the actor of High Fidelity, Being John Malkovich, The Raven, and The Grifters, born on June 28th, 1966. Happy birthday, John Cusack. I'm kidding. No, happy birthday, Christine. We love you. You don't look a day older. I look older than you. I look like I'm wearing down. You look always young. How do you do it?
Hydration.
Hydration.
Lots of hydration. What is that you're drinking? Speaking of hydration,
it's mango. It's like a it's basically mango water. It's like a powder. And it has like electrolytes really and stuff. It's like It has as much electrolytes as like Pedialyte. And I need that because I feel like I'm dying.
That's not good. Why do you feel like you're dying?
I'm being
always
facetious. I'm always dying. You know what I mean? I'm dying every day.
Yeah, no. It was a up and down moment leading up to my birthday because this is the first birthday ever in Los Angeles. And, like very true to filmmakers and artists, we're always anxious and second guessing ourselves. And it was days where I'm like, it's okay if I, don't have anybody to celebrate with because I have no friends. And then the next day I'll be like, actually, I'm really sad. and then up and down. But yeah, I've had a really great weekend. Old friends celebrated. Actually, my friend Eric Huang, I don't know if he's ever
friend of the podcast.
He has been on. Yeah. He's been on the podcast, friend of a podcast. Yes. For the episode of Asian Hate, Stop Asian Hate. And he and his awesome girlfriend, Myra, who is also a filmmaker, has been doing the film festival rounds, joined me just for a drink. So that was nice. And then yesterday, Roxy, my awesome roommate and amazing makeup artist who needs 4 more union days to become union. I'm broadcasting to the world. See, Roxy, I care about you a lot.
Yeah.
She went and had a roommate lunch because originally she was supposed to work yesterday, and then that was also what spurned my I'm sad and alone and no friends on my birthday event. But so I got to have lunch with her, and then in the evening, a girl who's awesome, a lady, Briggs. I met her at one of the first meetups that I went to when I moved to Los Angeles, called the Film Brunch Girls. We really connected, and she took it upon herself to host like an event for me for my birthday, and that was really special. So it was just like lots of new friends to further validate that, like, hey, I definitely do have friends and people who do care, and that was really, really nice to be reminded that LA ain't that bad.
It ain't all doom and gloom.
It ain't that bad. So, yeah, that's about it. And
you don't want to talk about the set that you were on?
Oh yes, and I have been in an awesome set. I'm not allowed to technically say the title of the set.
I am on like 3 hours of sleep, and I am producing the fuck out of this podcast right now.
I'm on an awesome set. I can't say what it is because there are apparently crazy stalkers.
The NIDAs.
Yeah.
The NIDAs. The NDAs, the NIDAs.
Yes. So I'm on an awesome set where the lead is Michael Cera, which I'm very happy about. He's super cool. I had my trepidations because when you work with someone that you've been following their work for a while, you always wonder, like, I hope they are nice. You hear stories about
And yes,
people
this
who
is
aren't.
Michael Cera of Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, Juno.
Yep, this is Michael Cera of
Yeah.
I think the first film I ever watched with him was Superbad. And
Super
then
bad. Yeah, that's a
then
classic with
Juno.
Jonah Hill,
Yeah,
Juno, and
Juno.
Scott
Scott Pilgrim
Pilgrim.
versus the World. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's about to be in the new Barbie film as well, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's right.
Yeah. But he's
Yeah.
super nice. And it's nice, on the very last day of week 1. So we finished week 1. Next week we start week 2. He
Mhm.
was like, "Yeah, you're killing it." And I was like, "Oh, did Michael Cera really tell me that?"
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah,
That's
exactly.
rad.
So that made me very happy to because I definitely, leading up to the set, Roxy will attest to this. It's like I was being like, Roxy, I don't remember how to first AD anymore. I have no clue. I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, you know what you're doing. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. So questioning myself about everything. But yeah, killed
It's
it
not
the
like you
first week.
forget how to ride a bike, Christine. Come on,
Yeah. I don't know. It's just when you feel like it's a different level of a project, you always will question yourself and stuff. What
Sure.
position you're working.
Yeah.
I'm working as a first assistant director of the set, which is cool. Yes, the first AD. That's correct. Yeah, first AD on set, and yeah, it's been amazing. And then in not this coming week, but the week after, Kristen Stewart will be on it. That's who has all the crazy stalkers. Yeah. And so, yeah, so we are, for the protection of the set, can't talk about where we're filming and all that stuff, or if we do post, it's like it has to be a few days later type thing, or nothing just that you can tell where it is type thing, just because apparently production's been getting a lot of weird phone calls trying to figure out where we're filming at. So this is the first time that we've had we have a bodyguard on the set, like security and stuff like that, and just to make sure there aren't weird stalker people. So
shocked more sets don't do that,
yeah, it's very interesting. But
I feel like a lot of indie shoots can use a little bit
could
of
benefit from that. Yeah.
bodyguard protection, security
Yes.
protection.
But yes, thank you for the congratulations. I'm very excited. I definitely looked back and thought, like, who recommended me for this position, and I still have not figured that out. I've been digging and have no clue. But whoever out there, if you happen to see this, thank you for recommending me for the role, and for anybody out there that's tagging me on stuff when they're looking for first ADs or whatever. It really means a lot, and it all helps. It really does. So thank you very, very much. Can you say if it's a series or a film? It's a film. Yeah, it's a feature, a comedy feature, like a dramedy type thing. So super fun. Yes. And it's great. This is honestly, I think this is the second union set I've been on. Although
Really?
it might be, it may not, it might, I get union sets very confused, and this might lead into our next conversation anyway. So you can have a union set, but have non-union above the line. There are several different ways unions work. So there is the writers union, the WGA writers union. And then there is DGA, the directors union. That's where your ADs come from, and like your line, and you're above the line basically. And then you have your unions, which are like IATSE, and so your G&E, and then I believe the like makeup and all stuff have their own union. There's like so many different unions basically. And you can, it's very possible that I've been on a union set but had no clue, because it wasn't a DGA project. So I just assumed, oh, it's non-union, because nobody asked me for whether I was union or not union type
Right.
thing. So it's very confusing. And they all have different rules as to how you can get into them. DGA is supposedly the hardest one, and because it requires a lot of days to be able to make it in third area, it's significantly less days compared to like your California or New York. In California, it's 400 days. In third area is everything that is not California or New York. It's 130 days. And the reason for this discrepancy is because there's just not nearly as many projects coming into third area. That's I think they do it by the number of projects that come to your area, and then based off of that, they calculate like what they feel is the okay, I'm getting it. Okay. IATSE is the film crew union. Then you have locals, which are the different departments. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's, yeah, IATSE is the film crew union. So this is like IATSE basically, and which is pretty cool. And yeah, so I'm working to convert my DGA QL, which is qualification status, which is kind of like actors also have their unions, so SAG versus non-SAG type thing. So this is SAG, obviously, and they have this middle part called SAG eligible, which means like you've done your days, but you just haven't paid your dues yet, so you're not officially indicted into the union for SAG, and that's kind of where I am at. I'm DGA QL, which gives you like qualified, which means I've been proven to have done all the days required for third area to be in the DGA. And all I have to do is pay a measly $10,000 and I'm inside.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, it's so expensive. And that's why I have not, part of the reason why I haven't done it yet. The other
That's
reason
a down
too,
payment for a house.
it's very expensive.
That's very expensive.
But the idea is that like this is for life, and you also get benefits like insurance and
I mean,
your
yeah.
DGA card and a future you pay into your pension. So there's reasons for this amount that seems insane right now. But
But are
the
you
other
entitled to
reason
those
why
benefits if you don't work consistently in the DGA?
they do have like you have to. I haven't really. I should probably read into this stuff a lot but more clearly. But,
It's okay.
but I know that talking to other people, it's like you need to be working, and it's not. I think it's not insane. It's like once a year you need to work at least once or a DGA project. Or
Oh,
whatever.
okay,
So
gotcha, gotcha.
there's things like that that determine how you continue to keep and maintain your status in the
Right.
DGA. But so I'm QL for only the third area, but since I
Right.
moved to Los Angeles, I'm trying to upgrade it. So I have to double the number of days that I have on QL, but it actually is totally fine. This has worked out perfectly. Everything in my life has been very lucky where things have just worked out the way it's supposed to.
Mhm.
And so a huge reason why I haven't flipped over to DGA is because especially with certain unions, they're very strict when it comes to the ability to work on union versus non-union jobs. So for the DGA, if I go into the DGA, I will not be able to work a film that is a non-DGA film. And the problem here is that being an indie queen, I've only really done independent films. Most of my connections are with films that are non-union. And so you kind of shoot yourself in the foot if you have no connections in the union world, yet you are only allowed to work union jobs. So I'm basically going to take this time this year to make the connections here in Los Angeles. And hopefully by the time at the end of the year, I'll have enough days to reapply to upgrade to the Southern California DGA, then get in. And by that time, hopefully I have the connections to just continue to work union jobs. But at this point in time, because the South has always been a right to work state. And because of that, there hasn't been such a, like, you have to be in the union, because you can pretty much work anything, there, because there isn't that much work. And so they can't make it. I think that's why. I'm not sure. I could dive into the history of it. I should probably do more research on that. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. Eventually, I will definitely join the union. But at this point, I'm still upgrading my number of days to be in the DGA. And I calculated it recently, and I think I'll only have 89 days left, which is pretty much like 3 or 4 features. I'm there, So
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty much like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it by the end of this year. But somebody said, fresh productions for it. I said, I've researched most of these union requirements, but keeping up with them, not so much. PGA is the one I pursued. Yeah, PGA is one where you need to do 3 features of a certain level of budget constraints. So it's like you have to do a above 250, I think, feature, or above 240. I can't remember what the exact, and then those qualify. Or if your film has received distribution, that also counts as well. There is
Oh,
like a
wow.
lot of PGA requirements. Let's see here. Within, it has to be within 7 years. Qualifying is features and TV. Let's see here. Anyway, while I'm looking for that, it's just a certain amount of, and it's again, you just get access to certain things and events and people and stuff like that. So yeah, PGA, that's cool because you get like to write like comma PGA, so
Right.
anyway, so yes, this kind of segues into one of the topics we've wanted to talk about, which is the writer's strike that is coming up. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very mixed about it. I understand why there is that,
right.
but
Yeah, there's a lot of which is interesting because there's a lot of conflicting information, and I guess
okay.
the overall, so let's just take a step back for a second. So basically the writer's strike is like any other strike. It's a strike about better compensation, better wages, better benefits, everything, when it comes to having rights, when you're working in the respective field that you're working in. And the reason why the writer strikes is so interesting is because, well, one, not a lot of information usually comes out, especially pre and post, or not post, but like preemptive, like strike, like imminent. Like usually we don't get any information until the day of. So tomorrow is going to be the end of the contract for the Writers Guild of America, or the Writers Guild, just period. And they are up for renegotiations to have a better salary, better wage, and in negotiating with these contracts, the studios have to agree. They have to essentially be on the, be on the positive about it and know that like, okay, the change is lucrative and it helps or whatever. Studios have not made any indication of anything. And that is worrying because now that the contract is up tomorrow, it's just going to be up to, I mean, it's going to be imminent that the writers are going to have basically a walkout. And when that usually happens, a few things happen usually, but the one thing that we can do is glean from the last writer's strike, which I don't know if a lot of people know about, but back in 2007, there was a writer's strike that lasted for almost 100 days.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. Yeah, it was over 3 months. So why is that important? The reason it lasted 21 weeks and 6 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So 100 days. Oh, wait. The guilds were on strike. Oh, so sorry. It's 14 weeks and 2 days, which is 100 days. Sorry. The previous strike in 1988, which was the last writer strike, was the longest in guild history, which was 153 days. So imagine, all your favorite movies, all your favorite shows, all the things that everybody watches at home. Who is your favorite? From Mandalorian to Wednesday Addams to all that. This affects the writers of that said show or of that said movie. So if you see in the past, a lot of shows that were coming out around 2007, 2008, one of them being The Office, a lot of the seasons were very short. Why is that? Well, because the writer's strike was happening and people had to have major cuts. At least what NBC and all those respective networks wanted was that, like, you know, oh, well, if we're going to pay more writers, well, then we're going to have to reel back as much work as we possibly can, because that's just what it is, which is, if you're going to ask me, in my humble opinion, as your friend, I think that's bullshit. I think that's absolute horseshit, because these companies do make a lot of money, especially in ad revenue. So how does that apply today? Well, it's streaming. So when you have a streamer, with the streaming wars that happened in the last 5 years, Disney, Amazon, Netflix, all are basically the kings of streaming right now. And with that being said, they're getting paid, at least for the writers, like almost very minimal, to the point where it's just barely livable in most writers' room that are in Los Angeles, which, if you know, Christine talked about this for many episodes, living in LA is very expensive. So it's not only so expensive, but imagine being a writer for your favorite show, and you're not getting paid enough. And what does that also mean? Well, you're not also getting the benefits that you need. That also cares for prenatal health care all the way to trans health care. And that all applies. And basically they're getting as shit wage as, like, you know, a Starbucks worker or an Amazon worker. You know what I mean? And that is not feasible for writers. And for the most part, I was reading on Twitter this morning about it a little bit, and you know, film Twitter is very weird. It's a very weird place, especially post Elon Musk Twitter. It's a very strange place. So the writers, at least as far as they've shown on Twitter, that it's not like they want like an insane compensation for, they just want the most adequate compensation for being a writer on these said TV shows and movies, right? Yeah. And it's not that much of a sacrifice for a lot of these studios, yet what they want to say, or what they might perpetuate, is that it does affect, and it affects all the content, which is why recently, especially with HBO, like, I think like thousands of titles have been removed from the HBO Max library or catalog.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of the reason, but a lot of people, at least who are in these respective writers' rooms, say that it is. And some executives say that, like, yeah, no, that's definitely part of it. They can't really meet the overhead costs for how much they want to keep on their servers and how much they want to pay. Because, I mean, look, it's $15 for most of these streaming services a month. And Netflix, it's like, what, between 15 to 20 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And Netflix has over 200 million subscribers. So every month, those 200 million subscribers are being charged that $15 a month, all the way to $20 a month. So that's what, 2 to 3 billion, maybe something like that. Sounds about right. Math. I don't know math. But that's basically what is happening. And then these people are not getting paid even in the most adequate wage for them to live, especially in I don't mean to be crass here, but a wasteland called Los Angeles. you know, it's not feasible. It's not feasible for a lot of these people. And these people are not getting paid enough. So all those shows, you guys, all those shows that you love, all those movies that you love in the last 5-6 years that go straight to streaming, those writers are getting paid dog shit. Basically, long end of the short end of this. The TLDR is writers getting paid dog shit. Nobody likes it. And they're going to go on strike tomorrow if the studios don't do shit.
Yeah.
So
I'm reading right now something that I thought was interesting is that not only are they not being paid enough for these episodes, I think a thing that a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these contracts are exclusive to specific shows. And the problem with that is if a show ends, the writer is not even allowed to go work on another show because they are contractually obligated to be with only a specific show. So to kind of explain that, it's like if you're on like Stranger Things or something, and let's say your contract was for 22 episodes, but you're being paid per episode that you write on. And let's say you've written on 10 episodes and they're like, all right, that's it. Like the season's done. Because your contract is for 22 episodes, you're not allowed to go work on, let's say, I don't know, Friends or something, because your contract says you are only allowed to write for Stranger Things, even though it's done, like even though the season's over and there's no way you can be paid more because you're finished with all the seasons of that show. But because your contract says you are contracted for 22 episodes, despite the fact that your show only has 10, that prevents you from working
from another show,
make up for another show. And that to me is pretty fucked
That's
up.
insane. Yeah,
that's,
I did read that as well.
Yeah,
and I forgot to add that. Yeah.
For me is like, oh crap, I would be very angry with that.
Because it's like a probationary period.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
You work for a marketing company, they don't allow you to go, like if you work for, I read a crazy article that a marketing dude for Nike was contractually obligated for like 15 years or something like that with them. And if they want to go to another company, they can sue him. Like the company Nike can sue this random ass dude.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
It's essentially like, if you were working for all you non-film people, if you're working for a company A, and it says that you are contractually obligated to only work for company A for 10 years. But let's say the work for company A is already done within 5 years. They will sue you if you go work for company B because you need to make a living because you have 5 years left on your contract, even though they don't pay you for those 5 years. It's not like they pay you for all 10 years and you get like a retainer or something. It's literally like you have a specific project in company A and it ended earlier. It ended in 5 years, but you can't make up that last 5 years of your contract by working somewhere else. So what do you do in those 5 years? Like you can't. LA is ridiculously expensive. Ridiculous. It's a money pit. Like, what do you do if you can't work for 5 years because you might actually get sued for trying to make a living? So that is kind of pretty crazy. So, and it's all
problematic.
It's problematic. And it's all a very big trickle down effect in the industry, because how are there ever films and TV shows and stuff? It all originates from the idea, the writer, right? And so without the scripts, then there are no productions going into play. Without productions going into play, then there's no work for any of the people who are in production, from producers all the way down to grips to art and stuff, post. And then without that, beyond just studio, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't work for the studio system, so like I shouldn't care, or I'm non-union anyway. But the issue is that a lot of the times it's through these creatives who are being paid studio money, or they save up money to make their own film. They direct and they hire other people. Well, now they don't have that money, so then all the non-union jobs start to dry up as well. So then nobody has any work, and it's and so it is definitely that's why a lot of people are very, very concerned. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of what you said, Christine, Fresh Productions in comments said all projects start with a writer idea, then to script. Everyone should be paid for the time and talents. And that applies for every department in almost any industry. And we talked a lot about shows. How does this affect movies as well? It kind of in the same way, basically, is like there's people who are contractually obligated to write Disney film or a better Marvel films. You know, like there's certain writers that are only hired by Marvel to write their said projects. So again, it still applies. Maybe it's not in the same vein or maybe the same pace, I guess. And every contract's different, right? We're not saying that one contract applies for every single writer. That's not how it works. But in terms of certain contracts, you have a contraction, you have an obligation to a set goal for what the studio wants, and then or company, doesn't matter, what they expect from you. And then once you meet those expectations, then the contract is up for renegotiations. But these contracts, depending on the length of time, can really fuck up somebody's wage and salary and living costs and stuff like that. Like, you know, and I'm pretty sure like 99% of all writers' rooms and writers all are, at least studio writers, are all in LA. So it's a company town, and a company town needs a company wage, and you need a company price, and the price is not there, and the wages are nowhere even close to being there. So, yeah. And hopefully, like Christine said, this would be a renegotiation for like different terms of those said contracts, right? Instead of like writing for 22 episodes, you write for one season. You write for 9 episodes, and then that's it, you know?
Or if you want to honor this, whatever 22 episode thing, then you have to be able to put a retainer, you know, pay me or something like that, even though you are done, you know, type thing, or release me from my obligation to not be able to work anywhere else type thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
Which is very silly to hold one writer to one writer's room until their contract ends because, well, that's what the studio says. It feels very weird. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's because it's an NDA issue, which I feel like I don't know. I feel like they might want to get away with, like the studios who's like, oh, we don't want the writers to talk to each other. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. Maybe not, but like, or it's just a good old fashioned game of control, you know, to just make sure that you get these people locked in tight to one thing, and that person can't go anywhere else. You know what I mean? Because they're an asset.
It's control. It's control. It's
probably more that.
Gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping. Yeah.
So like, oh, if we tie up this awesome writer, they aren't going to go write more awesome stuff with our competitor that will make their views better, and you know, all sorts of stuff. It's very selfish.
It's very selfish, and the studios don't seem to have any indication that they are in agreement to what the WGA is asking for, which the demands are not unbeknownst, you know, they're not so out of this fucking world. It's just for a better salary for people to fucking survive, basically. So
interesting.
What I mean, a lot of people ask, especially on Twitter, that I thought was very interesting, was that like, okay, so again, why does it apply to me? Why does it apply to the shit that I watch? I'm still going to get Stranger Things next year. I'm still going to get this. I'm still going to get that. You don't know that. You have no idea. Anything can happen in these writer strikes. The writer strikes can happen as far as 3 to 4 months, 5 months sometimes. At least back in 1988, I'm assuming. But yeah, it's a lot of there's a lot of, you know, demands and shit going on that writers are not getting compensated for. Fresh Production says, paraphrasing here, but my understanding, the contracts for writers are for the ideas, not you as a person. And the claim is you can't go use your ideas additional somewhere else.
Yeah, but where did the ideas come from? You as a person.
Right. Yeah.
So sure, loosely it's like, oh, your IP and stuff like that. But like the problem is there's no way to prove that this idea that you new idea that you wrote for this other company didn't somehow get inspired by
The same shit.
some shit from the previous show that you
Right.
were in the writer's room and talked about and was never actually put into use, but came about when you were doing your writer's room and brainstorming,
Yeah.
So it's too, I mean, like Ed Sheeran had to go to court to prove that he didn't like, you know,
Right.
steal
Use a
some
Marvin
music.
Gaye sample,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's so hard. It's intellectual property is just really gray and cloudy. I mean, obviously sometimes it's very obvious, but I mean, as artists, we're inspired by so many things, and surprisingly, sometimes a lot of that stuff is very similar. I don't know how many times I've been told, like, I'll be like, oh, I have this great idea, and I spout it out, and they're like, oh, did you know that there's actually like a show that insert what you just told me, basically? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, like I literally never have ever seen that, So
I don't agree with Fresh Production said. I don't agree with that, but listening to others talk about this is where I'm coming from. Yeah.
there's just a lot.
I mean,
There's
you
a
don't
lot
have
of
to agree with it.
Yeah.
It's up for debate to everyone, but it's just the idea of it all is just like to have your idea in your work be compensated. That's just the done all be all, and to use that quote unquote, like, it's one thing if you're going to completely, like, if you work as a writer for Wednesday, to take a piece of material from Wednesday to apply it to the Mandalorian that you're working on right now. That doesn't there's no competing there. Unless I'm completely misunderstanding what the question is, but I think that's what they're trying to come across. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm sorry. But I think it's just based off of the work that you're putting in, and yeah. It's just you got to get compensated for that. And the ideas, again, the ideas, I don't know. I feel like that's a weird thing with when it comes to ideas. You obviously can't steal, like, a copy and paste, like a whole fucking show to another
Right.
show. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, you can't do that. So, same thing with movies. You can't, from top to bottom rewrite Star Wars and call it The War in Stars. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that, because that's going to be a conflict of copyright infringement. Exactly. So when it comes to that, that's a no-no 100%. But so again, when it comes to movies and shows, if there are no contracts, well, there's no movie or show to be made, period. So if they're in the writer's room for the next season of, again, I'm using this as an example, like Mandalorian, there's a writer's room or whatever. I think it's only by one person, but it's just whatever. It's an example. They have the right to walk out. They're on strike. So they don't need to show up to work, because that's what a strike is. So they don't have to show up, and that thing just doesn't get made, and episodes are shorter, things are changed, or maybe like Law and Order 2, like, I think, like, only airs like around May or something like that, and sometimes they don't get pushed until like the fall or like maybe the winter, because there's no writer's room. There's no one there to shoot the shit, and write the ideas that you see, and Law and Order has been out for how long? Longer than my fucking life, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, for that, it's impacting everybody. And now that we're in the streaming wars, I guess the streaming wars is kind of over with, right? But at the same time, it's like not a lot of people are getting compensated for that. And it's a pretty bad thing. Given that, I mean, for God's sakes, Netflix is generating $2 to $3 billion every month by subscribers. It feels like, they can spare a couple of pennies extra to give to the writers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's interesting. I this is the first time I've been physically close, proximity wise. I also used to be, in the place where I felt so disconnected from it, because of, I'm sure, just by sheer proximity and the fact that I'm like, oh well, I'm non-union, I'm not working for a studio, it doesn't affect me, type thing. I can continue to work in Texas, but it's definitely a trickle down effect. And
Yeah.
you definitely saw, I definitely saw it from not the strike itself, but from a different perspective. It was simply tax incentives. So when the Texas tax incentives dried up because they decided to not renew it, within a year or two, you definitely felt that things were slower in terms of there just weren't opportunities and job opportunities around, because nothing was going into production, type thing.
Right.
Simply because there was no incentive for productions to go to that certain state, and they went to other states, and then like things dried up. So I know it's not synonymous, but you are affected,
Yeah.
regardless of where you are in life, what status you are, union or non-union and stuff. It will affect your livelihood, and it is scary. So a lot of filmmakers around are, very stressed out about it. And there are a lot of productions that aren't going into production because they're waiting to see what will happen when the strike goes on, because the last thing you want to do is go into production, the strike happens, and you happen to have a script that's by a union writer, and then it stops, and then it's indefinite. So you just lost, I don't know, 5 days of, you've already worked 5 days or whatever, you lost a whole months of budgeting and work and everything. So that's why a lot of projects are just holding to see what will happen,
Or get
a lot
cut
of people,
short. Yeah.
or cut short, or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
nobody really wants a strike, right? Nobody in their right mind is excited for a strike, because nobody gets the shit that they want, and nobody gets paid. Everybody loses. Everybody is unhappy, which is why a strike is important, because it gives the indication that, like, hey, these writers, you don't get your shit without them. Basically, you don't go from A to Z without the writer. Which, yeah, like a lot of people may or may not, really give a shit about it, but like at the same time, you do, especially when it comes to, even like your maybe even some of your reality shows, those reality shows. Oh, oops, sorry, I don't mean to
scripted. They're
break your
actually
bubbles, y'all,
they're
but they
actually
are all
scripted.
fake. They're scripted.
Yeah, they're all
And
scripted.
those also need writers too.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get your Love Island. You're not going to get your
Love is Blind or
Love is
whatever
Blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to get your MILF Manor. What are we going to do without MILF Manor, y'all? You know what I mean?
That's a show.
Yeah. You want to know the crazy
Wow.
thing about the show? Have you heard about the show?
No.
Dude, so there's this reality show called MILF Manor, where it's just a bunch of old moms, basically, go to an island, and it's just them by themselves. But the one trick is that they're going to introduce each other's sons, so their sons are then part of all of this.
Oh, interesting. To each
And
other?
it gets fucking the show is like it goes against all code of ethics. Every single code of ethic is violated with that show. I never seen a show like it's so mind-bendingly weird. It's so weird. I never seen a show like that. So yeah, they do activities, and of course they're all sexual. So you see your son, doing ungodly things to another older woman and shit like that. Yeah, it's gross, dog. It's gross. I don't know why it exists. I don't know why it's a thing. I hate it. I don't want it, but it's here. You know what I mean? And
Not
those
gross
writers are affected by the writers.
Older women are awesome and should be able to date whoever they want. More just like the aspect of like moms introducing their sons to their friends is kind of interesting.
I mean, yeah, sure. Different strokes for different folks, right? But when you're televising borderline incest, it's a little, you lose me a little bit, and some people like it. It's their jam. More power to you. God bless you. Inshallah. Peace be with you. But yeah, it's not for your boy. So anyways, going back to the writer's strike. Yeah. So those Keeping Up with the Kardashians. There was somebody on a podcast who was a writer on Keeping Up with the Kardashians like years ago on I don't know if it was Howard Stern, but like it was like one of those talk shows, and talked about being a writer on the Kardashians and shit like that. So yeah, it affects everybody. So yeah, you might not get your season of The Bachelor, or the season of The Bachelor is going to be cut by half, and everybody will go crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, we don't want the strike, ladies and gentlemen, is the long end of the short end of it. We don't want this, but it's here and it's happening tomorrow. So yeah, we're gonna strap in. So hopefully, maybe by next weekend, by the next time we do this podcast, it'll probably be over. Who knows? It might be over, or maybe not. Which is gonna be insane. My whole thing though is that like movies are already kind of crippling theaters at this point. This writer strike is. First we have the COVID, and then now we have the writer strike. I mean, are we just trying to incinerate the movie theaters? Like, what are we doing?
I know. Yeah.
And part of it is like, of course, like, not many people are putting in a huge investment on like original independent like movie ideas, which is crazy because we see something like Everything Everywhere All at Once win a Best Picture fucking Oscar. So clearly people are very much and very willing to watch an independent film. So, studios, you got your advertising boys, get on the independent train and start getting these indie films distributed. It's easy as. It's get these filmmakers a fucking voice, please. It's due time. But y'all want your superhero shit, which listen, I'm guilty of that. Yeah. I love my superhero shit. I want my superhero shit, but you can also have indie shit as well.
I think there's just a lot of it ends up being the distribution aspect. There's just people haven't cracked how to reach a mass amount of people through the channels that are currently available. So that's the issue. It's that distribution. You can't just simply put something out there and just hope that people know where to go to watch it, and distribution companies, especially studios, understand the key to anything is marketing, and distributors are able to pool a bunch of money and distribute it amongst what they've projected to be their key titles that are going to succeed, and through their lots of money that they have been pumping into analytics, they're able to say, this movie that has this star, that has these key points in the storyline, is 70% going to return our return on investment within 3 years. Therefore, it is worth our time and money to sink in X amount of dollars in marketing to get people to go see this film, which is
So they want to
nuts.
squeeze the longevity of that as long as they
nuts.
can.
It's all
That's
about
nuts.
money, and
Yeah,
I get it. Money makes the world go round in terms of you need money to be able to create content, and I told it. It's really frustrating because as an independent filmmaker, you're in this little cycle. You're in the cycle of you put everything into making feature film, and if it doesn't like immediately get into Sundance and South by Southwest, especially if you're
right.
a female POC director, then the likelihood of your film seeing financial return after you've already guaranteed some distributor at X percentage plus a distribution fee becomes really tiny. And then your track record shows, oh, you had raised money that you haven't paid back, yet you feel like you can go and ask for more money for the next film. And then that's what happens is that film director doesn't get to work anymore, or they get discouraged and they don't make anything anymore. And it sucks. And I'm trying to not fall into that boat, but that's what happens. And so, something has to change with the distribution aspect that will allow everyone who is interested in watching independent films to be able to go and do so. And for that money that's generated to be able to get into the hands of filmmakers so that they're able to pay back their investors and prove that, hey, making films is a viable, industry, et cetera, and continue to make films down the line. But it's hard. I don't have an answer. I don't know. You think, oh, there's lots of things out there. There's Vimeo on demand. There's Amazon. You usually can put stuff on there. The thing is it just takes so many resources to encourage people when there's so much noise already out there made by people that actually do have money to get people to freaking get off their butts to go watch a film. It's like, we can't win. Can't win.
No.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, our films don't have, I don't know, Kristen Stewart or whoever floats her boat.
Yeah. It feels like they need the names in order to even say that it could be marketable, which, I mean, in my humble opinion, that's fucking bullshit. Like that's not it's a non-starter. That doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like I understand, somebody made that argument on Twitter. It was just like, well, yeah, we need more independent films, but independent films are not going to get made. And the only reason why Everything Everywhere All at Once was successful is because of Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan. And I'm like,
we're on it.
Well, kind of, but not really. Not really, because again, they weren't the first choice. You know what I mean? So the writers, the Daniels, who made the script, like didn't have both. I mean, probably Michelle Yeoh, but like only worried about the story. The story is where it matters. And the actors, yeah, they do help, but like at the same time, it's like you can't. How many films have we seen with amazing actors who it's just the shittiest fucking narratively written? No, I'm like, I don't. Again, I don't want to discourage. I don't want to make this a combative place for filmmakers at all, especially for writers. But the quality shows when you just want to pump something for the sake of getting money, for the sake of getting credit, for the sake of network, for the sake of whatever. When you start to have that, I guess, perspective, you lose the passion and the essence of the story.
Yeah.
The story is not there anymore. Now because you're trying to gain something out of it.
Yeah, and now you have chat AI stuff that apparently can make films. We had this discussion yesterday during my birthday dinner about like, well, you can't really replace heart, in a story.
No, and that's the thing that ChatGPT it will take so long before it can really nail it. And so many people want to tell me like, oh no, ChatGPT can nail like the passion and what like certain like you can write like how the dialogue should be between characters and stuff like that, especially if they interact. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But again, A, it's not user friendly, not in the slightest. And B, like the idea of them having the passion or the energy, it only comes from within and by experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been yelled at in a car accident. Has Chat GPT? You know what I mean? Have you worked at a coffee shop like Pete's Coffee and Tea and been told that you're a fat fuck from a customer? I have. You know what I mean? Like the shit like that in experiences, I cannot,
Recreate
I can't. Yeah.
Robot. Yeah.
As a computer, you can't recreate those feelings. You can't recreate that anger or sadness or betrayal or any of that. You can describe it as long and eloquently as you possibly can. Studios are not gonna want to bother with that when they can just get a writer to just do it anyways. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I was gonna jump
and not
in
pay them. Sorry.
with you're good. With a statistic that kind of supports what we were talking about in terms of how difficult it is for films in general. There's this article by Filmmaker magazine. If anybody wants to check it out, I posted it on my personal, my professional Facebook page called "Producer Data: The Numbers Don't Lie: The Truth About Independent Film Revenue." And it says that basically, if you make a film with a budget of less than $50,000, the likelihood of you breaking even is about 50%, basically. But if you make a film that's between 50,000 to 200,000, that likelihood becomes like 20% of being able to break even. If you're at a budget level of $200,000 to $900,000, now that the likelihood of you even breaking even is 5%. But it's weird because once you go to make a budget film that's greater than 1.5 million, you 100% break even. It's really strange. And the reason for that is just like, I think at a certain point, what you're spending money on is no longer just making the film, the budget of making the film. What you're able to put that money into is like marketing that will get people to come and watch your film and everything. So it just seems like once you reach a certain budget level of higher than 1.5 million, you just now have the resources that will tip over your film to be able to be seen in a way that will generate revenue for breaking even. It's
interesting.
It's really interesting.
So the advertisers and the marketing people feel like it's not even worth if it's less than 1 million to push ads for that.
This is what is most notable in this data set is that for the most part, the films that broke even made a profit had actors at the highest and lowest end of the star meter. So that part doesn't matter essentially up to a certain point. Like if you have a recognizable actor, but if they're not like super recognizable, even that doesn't help.
Wow.
It's like,
and there's only like what a few high level elite actors, right?
Yeah.
Whom should I say 95% are white? Sorry. I mean, it's this is one of those things.
Conclusion, we're doomed.
I mean, well, no, I don't think I do think though that we're hitting an impasse, and this impasse can maybe serve more of an opportunity for these
Correct.
studios to see and be like, oh, wait, people want to see more like everything everywhere all at once, and more people want to see like crazy creative like horror films and stuff. Like a new horror film that came out that I loved was Evil Dead Rise.
Mm.
And this was a horror film. Yeah, it's part of a franchise technically, but it's so fascinating and phenomenal to see a film that's very original but set in the same universe, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's still original in of itself, with like a few Easter eggs and stuff. But like, you don't need to watch, Evil Dead or any of those movies in order to, understand it. So with Evil Dead Rise, it was so crazy being in the theater. It was like pre-pandemic again, like Avengers level, like amazing audience. Because like, if for the first time I hear the audience like scream and like laugh and cry and just go, "Ah!" just like hearing that again, like just makes me feel like, oh, people do want this. People are very, 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 very invested in movies. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah, you
It's
just have to
just they're
just go
not
to a
going to
screen
exactly. They're
and
not going to
see.
spend $50 to $60 for a whole excursion for between gas, tickets, food, parking, all that to just go watch a fucking movie for 2 hours. You know what I mean? But people do want to do that. They absolutely do want to do that. And of course, like there's cheaper alternatives and whatnot, especially with streaming and everything. But like, again, a lot of people will show up for the right movie. You know what I mean? Now, do they
Yeah.
show up for every single movie? Of course not, because not everybody's made of fucking cash. But when it's a big enough movie or enough hype for people to talk about it, I didn't go see Everything Everywhere until somebody told me about it. I think it was you actually
Yes.
that just told me about it. It was just
Probably
like,
me that told you
it
about
was
it. But
probably you.
but there it
I'm like,
comes
okay, I
down
gotta watch it.
to
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to when somebody asks, how can we help independent filmmakers and stuff? You literally have to talk about
Just
this
talk
stuff.
about it.
Just
Yeah.
talk about it. You have to tell people, hey, this film is awesome. Hey, and it makes a freaking big difference. You may be like, oh,
Ah,
well, like I'm a one person and I know. No, it does. And I anytime I've had a Q&A and somebody who said that, that's my biggest thing, showing up,
mm,
I'll always go back to this when I was doing Ursley and I was on tour. I did my own tour and I went to the California Mermaid Convention. And I was so stressed out going there because every location I'd gone to prior to the California Mermaid Convention, I'd known people. So, in Austin, I've lived in Austin for 10 plus years, so I knew people and I could get people to come and rally. I knew people in Louisiana, but I knew zero people in Sacramento. Zero. And just the fact that I remember there were maybe 10 to 15 people that showed up. And that meant a lot to me. A lot. Like to a filmmaker who, didn't know anybody and everything. Like I can picture those people in that audience. One of them is on this chat. That's why I wanted to say it. But yeah, and Alex and them showing up and then later on bring flowers and now we're friends and stuff like that. Like it makes a difference. It
yeah.
makes a huge difference in a filmmaker's life too. So if somebody is like, hey, I made a film and I have a screening, and if you're not doing anything, please come. I will.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing anything, I will, So that's just how it goes. That's the best way to support
But
is
yeah, like you said,
literally do
talking
that.
about it helps too. It works.
About it. Yeah, tell people, show people. Yeah, share it, host a screening, all of that, every little bit works. That's why cult films take that long to become cult films, because it's all purely through word of mouth and hype and whatnot. And yes, it is a great feeling. Nothing compares to that when especially when you've put every filmmaker does this. They put everything into it. And like, just when it's like your friends and family, it's almost like they're kind of obligated to go. But like when it's like complete strangers that go and support you and stuff, it's like extremely validating.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, the end goal is to get people like that. But the Arctic Tales said really, really awesome thing in chat. There's also the thing about audiences growing tired of repeat plots and predictable stories, and remakes. Give me something original, dude. How many times have I seen on film Twitter, everywhere else, especially like normies, people who are not even in the industry, can see that like superhero films and all this shit is just it's too much. You're getting swirled. We're all getting swirled into this whole fucking big giant multiversal like film thing, which I do like, but yeah, we're in the business of like making original shit. You know what I mean? That's why like the 70s and the 80s were such a crazy time for film, because like they were making some of the weirdest fucking shit back in that time. I'm serious, dog. Like there's some movies, especially even in the 90s, that got even more experimental, because I don't think really indie films were really a popular thing until like the 90s. I don't think, because all there was in like the 70s and the 80s, you got your top hit like directors, but they were making like crazy weird shit themselves. You know what I mean? And those studios had no problem like giving budgets to them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you want Jeff Goldblum to become a fly, so you see his like flesh and everything just like coming out of his skin and shit, becomes a fly. Yeah, we'll make it. Sure, why not? You know, like it's a crazy fucking time back in those days. And now it's just everybody wants to be by the book. They just want to, do something that makes sense. Arctic Tail says same idea, different outfit. 100%. People still remember American Werewolf or The Thing or Rocky Horror or Little Shops because they were so unique. Yes, that's why when it comes to even horror films, like that's such a no-brainer thing, because they're cheap to make and so many of them are original. The Fly was a remake. Yes, sorry. That's true. That's a very good point. But I guess it's just like my point stands though, is that like back in that time, they were giving budgets to everybody. You know what I mean? Like it was the craziest fucking time, it felt like. And nowadays it's just people really want like, well, what does the algorithm say? Well, we want to do by what the algorithm does. So if the Netflix algorithm works, then we want it. If it doesn't, well then no. It's like that's not how movies should be. And we should not be writing movies in that limitation to algorithms.
It's hard. I get it though. It's hard because money and risk, right? People are risk averse naturally. And
I'll say this. If you really want to make more bang for your buck, stop licensing and trying to get the biggest fucking movies you want to try to and get. You know what I mean? Like Netflix owns a movie theater. They can be part of Oscar contention. So Netflix can easily make crazy original shit instead of perpetuating, oh, we're going to do Cobra Kai, which is a remake of or a sequel to Karate Kid, or comic book adaptations, just shit like that can have a spotlight for certain filmmakers and have their work be distributed and be told and stuff like that. And that's where, in my opinion, that's where the money is, baby. You know what I mean? That's if I was a business guy, I would want to give my money to people like them, people who have the original shit, who have the ideas they want to bring to the table, and are like serious about it, yeah, are all of them going to hit? No. That's the beauty of filmmaking, baby. It's a gamble all the time. We don't know people are going to show up. However, we do know people do show up when you get it to the right eyes in advertising and the right people who say it with word of mouth, if it's at least good enough, So those are the little things you want to strive for. But the studios want to play it safe. They want to do it the safe way. They don't want to lose money because it feels like they're hemorrhaging money as it is, which maybe, but I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Amazon Prime Video has over 220 million subscribers. Okay. Disney Plus has over 135 million subscribers. HBO Max, almost pushing 100 million subscribers. So of course, yeah, things are getting expensive, but also these people are getting, anywhere between $2 to $5 billion a month in terms of subscribers. Calculate that every single year. I mean, god damn. That's a lot of money, Christine.
Yeah, I was reading a good fresh production. Arctic Tail Anna says, and we need more practical. It's not all about SFX.
That's very true.
I think it's all about like what's the best way to tell your story, right? So
that and how you can make the perfect marriage of VFX and CGI stuff,
Fresh Production says a good example to your point, a Western but in space made in the 70s is arguably the biggest franchise ever. Which movie is that? I can't remember.
Wait, are you talking about Star Wars? No.
Maybe. Is that what you're talking about? Fresh Production?
Star Wars was released in 1977.
Because it is a Western and it is in space ish. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
so you are. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm such a Star Wars fan. I get little like, it's a fantasy, but I see where you're coming from. I'm not going to be that guy and be like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, it definitely has a Western touch to it. It's a cross genre. It's like it's a fantasy. Sure. There's people want to say it's a sci-fi. It's not a sci-fi, but they still categorize it as sci-fi. Why? I don't know. But whatever. I'm not the big guy with the white collar executive. So yeah, the WGA strike is imminent. It's happening tomorrow, and hopefully this is going to be a call to arms for people of everywhere in the industry, not in the industry, you viewers out there, to really perpetuate the films that you want to talk about, that you want people to watch and go see. Because a lot of times people are going for the nostalgia. There's a lot of films out there that are not being watched, or they're just being swept underneath the rug. Fresh Production says, no, I agree with you. It was just a crazy idea then, but got made. No, yeah, 100%. Because it's one of those things that you're like, how did this ever get fucking made? How can a movie like, I don't know, an old crazy dude who owns a park that has dinosaurs roaming around everywhere, and one of them breaks out and starts killing people? You know what I mean? Like, how can anybody be like, now that is what I want to see? It's just like nobody in the right mind. If you ask Susie Q down the street, they're gonna be like, what the fuck are you get out of my house? You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna want to hear about that. They don't care. But then once you start having people talk about it, then it's like, okay, maybe the hype is real. Maybe we should be doing something with that. And then more movies came out, and even more movies. The Arctic Tale says you can definitely use both and make it look amazing. Like even newer movies like Fury Road. Fury Road is a phenomenal example.
Phenomenal.
It has a perfect marriage of special effects with CGI, definitely.
And if you feel like a movie like that was easy, that was extremely difficult to get made. There's a book all about that I'm reading right now called Sweat and Chrome but it's nuts about how many times this film has stopped production, restarted production, ran out of money, started production, like all sorts of stuff. You should read that. Like even large budget films.
Another one too
many problems.
is Apocalypse Now, which what people don't know is that originally Apocalypse Now was going to be made by George Lucas, who made Star Wars. That would have been a completely different film. And that also underwent a whole bunch of budget concerns to the point where George Lucas is like, the studio is asking too much for me, and I don't want to deal with this anymore. Gilbert Baker Film Fest says, thanks for having these conversations. You bet, man. Fresh Productions 409, Jurassic Park and other great films. Those get made because writers had great ideas. So hopefully they get paid and don't style. Yeah. And imagine if you do, oh, and don't strike. Sorry. Yeah. That's what you meant. Yeah. It's, you would imagine that like a lot of these people, which they do have these crazy ideas, but like a lot of these writers either don't get the time of day or won't get compensated or just straight up just will be refused because it's not part of what they want to make and stuff like that. And so many people are so worried about, having, some idea be made at Disney or have their own Marvel film or have their own Star Wars film. I'm sure, and Christine included, I'm sure either of us would love to make a Marvel or Star Wars film, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's
resources.
Can you imagine? It's a bottomless pit. But we don't have that luxury, and nor I don't think we really want it, anyways, because we want to make the original shit that the stories that we give a shit about and that we want to make and stuff like that. And it's only a shame that like people like these major studios just would hear people like Christine or myself as a future filmmaker to be like, we're going to go with somebody else who wants to do the shit that we want to do, which again, they have every right to do, but also people like to complain and say there's a lack in content. And even the executives say there's been a lack in content. And that's hilarious because you're the fuckers who give those people the jobs. So I feel like that's a little bit of a calling the pot kettle black there. You know what I mean? Like y'all a bunch of hypocrites.
Whatever. In conclusion, if you want more original content, you got to show that there's demand for that content. You just have to do a little bit more work and research to find those films that are lost amongst the noise of all the other films that actually have money for marketing to blast at you. So make it a point to watch a film which I've done a terrible job. I was supposed to, wait, did I watch? No, I haven't been able to this week, but there's still Sunday. So
I know.
I'm still not done. So I was supposed to come back to this podcast having watched an independent film, and I've yet to do
I
that.
didn't. I was working, and I was going to mention that in the top of the pod, but
Okay.
I'm guilty as well. We're both guilty. It is hard. We both have lives and we both need to make money, which, by the way, anybody who wants to sponsor the Get Reelisms podcast, hit us up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, or go get a book, or
go even better,
yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Go get a book today. GetReelisms.com. Do we need to spell it out for you guys? GetReelisms.com. Come on, people.
Yes.
Give me a break. Get your books today. I guess that's the end of it. Was there anything else you want to talk about, Christine, before we say goodbye?
No, somebody said, Fresh Production said, I'm writing a screenplay right now as I listen to you guys today. My income, depending on writing, I'd be starving. Yeah.
Dude.
Thank you both for entertaining me.
And that's the thing of it, man. It's just like the things that we want to work on, we would love to get compensated for, but
yeah, it's just, it's a hard world out there.
That's the life of a filmmaker, Fresh Productions. I have one of those books. I literally bring it on every set. We love that, Fresh Productions. We love that. Keep pushing it, dude. I want to. I feel weird pushing Get Reelisms on like a commercial shoot, but I still do it anyways.
I do it. Yeah.
I
I'm
do
about to
it.
bring onto my set. I always like to build a rapport, and then I like give it to them, and then they are like,
Oh no, I
shit."
stand on a soapbox and I just start throwing Get Reelisms. No, I'm kidding. But no, yeah, you're right. I do. You want to make the connection and then start talking about it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, that's it. That's all the podcasts we have.
Yeah, it's been an hour and a half. Look at that.
Has it really?
Yeah, we did.
Nuh-uh.
We did. Yeah, we did a much longer one today, but that's okay.
Oh my
There's
God.
lots to talk about.
An hour and a half of free content, a free podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Fresh Productions. I have one of the, it's a running joke with those I collaborate with often. Yeah. Well, thanks for the plug, Fresh Productions. We still want that,
Yeah, we
you
really
know?
appreciate it. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody out there that supports and continues to listen to us, participate.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, if you guys ever have anything specifically that you guys want to talk about, you know how to find us. Just go to
drop it in the comments. Also too, if you have any interesting like movies you want to shout out or things that you've seen yourself that you want us to talk about on the podcast, send it, DM it to us. You know, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Just send in anything. We love the love and attention because we need attention. We need that. Thank you guys so much. Good luck and hugs to everyone on set. Hugs to you, my man. Hugs to you, friends. That's it.